We
are
We are
cultivate.
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 Cultivate. We are Cultivate.
Hello and welcome to Ye Olde Crime, where we discuss the funny, strange, and obscure crimes of yesteryear. I'm your host, Lindsay Valenti, and with me is my sister and co-host, Maddie Stengel.
Hello.
Hello. It has been a hot second.
It has been a minute.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to see your face.
It's good to see your face, too.
You got a good-looking mug on you.
Aw, so do you. Look,
Thanks.
our chins are starting to look more similar.
They do a little bit. That's kind of funny.
It is funny. Well, I'm just going to jump right into it. We've got two things in the not corrections cubby, the whatever the good thing is that we called it once upon a time.
Let's call it like I was going to say chill out chamber, but that sounds ominous, doesn't
That
it?
sounds like a place you would not want to be. Yeah.
Seedy. Like the van with candy, free candy on the side.
Makes you think of Chamber of Secrets, and it's not.
Ooh, snakes, no.
Yeah, not a jam. The Feel Good Fortress. Just kidding. That sounds even worse. The Feel Good Fort. Whatever it was called, I should just
I don't know.
Try to figure out what that was and go back and find it one of these days. Anyway, Dashery is our new merch vendor. They are a part of TeePublic in the sense that the back end is all TeePublic, but from the forward-facing end, it's the same great stuff, but we get a bigger kickback on the sale of our products. So as a creator, it is a better platform for us because we really don't get a whole lot from each sale. So
we don't.
We get like $1. So
right.
now we'll get 2. So
moving on up.
Yep. And speaking of dollar bills, y'all, I need to thank, as always, our lovely Buy Me a Coffee sustainers, who are Charlie, Elizabeth, Sarah, Cheryl, and Mariam. So thank you, ladies.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Appreciate you.
Mm-hmm.
And this week's episode is a long one.
Okay.
Full disclosure, there were some sources that I ended up not using because they were so intensive. I skimmed them, but I was like, I can't dive
Are you gonna
so deep.
Include them so our listeners can dive deep if they want to?
Yes. I am going to include links to all of the rabbit holes. So if you are super like, I need to learn all the things, you will have the resources to do so.
Nice.
I got you, fam.
Nice.
All right. We will be discussing the Pimlico mystery.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. I think I'm saying that right. Let's see. Let's see if I'm saying that right. What is happening? Pimlico. Pimlico. That sounds better. Pimlico.
So it's one word, not two.
Yes. The Pimlico mystery. It's a town.
Ooh.
It's the name of a city. All right. Information was pulled from the following sources: a 2022 Historic Mysteries article by Lauren Dillon, 2022 Mayfair Times blog post, 2022 Providentia blog post by Dr. Vitelli, 2015 Strange Tales blog post by Sarah Hapgood, 1926 Sunday Mercury article, 1919 Sunday Dispatch article by Philip Curtin, 1886 Auckland Evening Star, 1886 The Bristol Mercury and Daily Post, Western Countries and South Wales Advertiser, 1886 Cambridge Weekly News, 1886 The Hampshire Advertiser, 1886 The Leeds Mercury, 1886 Lloyd's Weekly Newspaper, 1886 The North Star, 1886 The Times, C.A. Asbury blog post, Historic UK article by Ben Johnson, Kent Maps online article, trial transcripts that I will not spoil like I did last time, and Wikipedia.
Dang, that's thorough.
Yep.
I think I know what year this happened too.
It was a good
Something-
year.
Context clues. I think I might have an idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Slight spoilers. Thank you to Carrie Ann for her research assistance on this episode, and the show notes will include links to all of the articles that were used to write this episode. Now, the key players in this story are Thomas Edwin Bartlett, who went by Edwin,
Interesting.
Wesleyan minister George Dyson, not to be confused
Ooh.
with the vacuum guy, and
I'm familiar with this a little bit.
maybe?
I've heard of this. I think I might have heard of this.
Okay. And Adelaide de la Trémoille de Foura d'Escurie. That was French, and I did my best.
That was a name.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thomas, so the main / Edwin, was born on October 16th, 1845, and would become a wealthy grocer from a very proper and close-knit English family. He had 6 shops and conducted business at Herne Hill with his partner, Mr. Baxter.
Interesting.
He was known as a hypochondriac with a delicate constitution, at times believing he had dysentery and suffered from mercury poisoning. Spoiler alert, he had neither.
Right, because he would be dead.
Yes, but to paint a picture, picture of who this man is. I don't know why I'm using these hand motions, but I am here for it.
Okay, so he wasn't like working in the grocery store, right?
He owned and managed 6
Yeah, okay.
shops.
Because I was like, there's no way he's like manning a store.
No.
And being afraid of and a hypochondriac. There's just no way.
No. He runs he runs things.
He's like, just feed the little people.
You do you, Mr. Baxter.
And bring me money.
Yep. Adelaide, the daughter of Clara Chamberlain and Adolphus Coulot de Foura d'Escurie, was born in Orléans, France, in 1855. She was one of 4 children, having an older brother named Henry Edward, who was born in 1853, and 2 younger siblings, Frederic, born in 1858, and her sister Clara Amelia, who was born in 1859.
Okay.
Thomas Edwin Bartlett and Adelaide were married on April 7th, 1875, at St. John's Church in Croydon, when Edwin was 30 and Adelaide was 20.
So kind of typical age gap at the time.
Yep, pretty common.
Yeah.
Their unusual union resulted from an arranged marriage by Adelaide's father, who was never publicly named. So even though, like, I listed a dad, it may or may not be her dad.
So maybe, well, I mean, during that time, people died constantly, so she might have had like a foster adoptive situation, maybe like an orphanage kind of thing.
It was rumored that her dad was a nobleman.
Oh, so she was like a mistress kid, maybe?
Maybe? I don't know.
Okay.
As a result, neither here nor there, Adelaide came with a rather sizable dowry. And her father hoped this marriage would ensure his daughter a proper place in English society, because she may or may not have been a bit of a bastard.
So it was a way of getting close to his daughter without kind of shaming any of them.
Yes, we'll go with that. One of the stipulations of their union was that Edwin must ensure that Adelaide finish her education. So for the first 2 years of their marriage, remember she was 19/20 when they got married,
Mm-hmm.
Adelaide was shipped off to a convent in Belgium to finish her education.
Interesting. Yeah, so definitely a nobleman or something, because like nobody just goes to a convent to be educated as a woman like that. That's like being shipped off to a real nice college and not
having to worry about any monies.
Mm-mm.
Now, not everyone was a fan of Adelaide, including Edwin's father, Edwin Sr. And according to Adelaide, her marriage to Edwin was platonic, and her only pregnancy was the result of a single act of quote-unquote unprotected coitus after much begging on her part for a child. She really wanted to have kids.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, if he's a hypochondriac and stuff, it would make sense that he would be less inclined to be more like physically intimate.
Sure.
Potentially. I mean,
she gave birth to a stillborn baby in November of 1881. The pregnancy had been challenging, and Edwin refused to allow a male doctor to assist her during her pregnancy and the labor because he didn't want another man near her.
Okay.
A midwife, Annie Walker, who had been present at the birth, confirmed this point, and although she had begged him to reconsider, he firmly refused. And understandably, the death devastated Adelaide, and the couple never again tried for another child.
That's too bad.
She was like, I can't go through that again.
No.
So, in early 1885, so 4 years later, the couple met Minister George Dyson, who would become a frequent visitor to their 2-room flat at 85 Claverton Street, Pimlico, London. So, it's like a little hamlet of London.
Okay.
He would soon become the couple's spiritual advisor and close friend. He was described as, quote, a young man of medium height with dark hair, heavy mustache, and close-cut whiskers, end quote. Minister Dyson was a graduate of Trinity College in Dublin, the son of a Wesleyan minister at Goole, and placed in charge of a Wesleyan chapel in Merton, which is where the Bartletts met him because they went to that chapel.
Got it.
Minister Dyson and the Bartletts would form a rather unique relationship. Edwin, for reasons only known to him, encouraged the minister and his wife to have an open romantic relationship with his blessing, entrusting Adelaide to Minister Dyson if he should pass away.
What? What?
Yeah. Edwin also believed that he should have 2 wives to serve 2 purposes, one for work and one for companionship. So just to kind of...
Work as in like keeping up appearances? Like...
Work as in like keeping house, like doing the work of a wife. And the other one is like for sexy times.
Got it. So it can't be the same. Has to be separate.
Separate, but equal.
Got it. Oh.
I'm assuming. I don't know.
Probably not.
Probably not. Adelaide later admitted to her and Minister Dyson's unusual relationship and Edwin's part in it. Quote, he requested us in his presence to kiss, and he seemed to enjoy it. He had given me to Mr. Dyson, end quote.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I mean, this is
a Victorian era. Who knows?
That's really funny how scandalous this is for them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it would still be pretty scandalous for a minister to do this and have it be in the papers right now, too.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be great.
No. Minister Dyson would often be seen entering the home early in the morning and staying late into the afternoon. He even kept his coat and slippers at the Bartlett home and would join them on vacations.
Yeah, that's a relationship. My friend.
Edwin purchased Minister Dyson a season railway ticket so that he could, quote-unquote, tutor Adelaide.
Oh, boy. Okay, this is just getting real juicy. All right, okay.
This teacher-student relationship didn't fool the Bartlett's maid, who would often catch the pair in positions that were certainly uncommon for such an academic education, one might say.
Hands-on, from the sounds of it.
Yeah, very hands-on.
There you go.
Mainly studying biology.
Dedicated.
Dedicated to the sciences of the body and the mind.
Interesting. For a man of faith, but okay.
And for Edwin, he seemed pretty serious about this, as he went so far as to redraw his will on September 3rd, 1885, making Minister Dyson the executor of his will, stating that Adelaide could only claim his estate if she married Minister Dyson first.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And before this, his will had stipulated that Adelaide could only claim the entirety of his estate on the condition that she remained a widow for the rest of her life.
Well, at least she had an option now.
Now she can have a companion.
I guess.
Edwin became deathly ill at the start of December of 1885. So Adelaide sent for a local doctor, Dr. Alfred Leach, who came to see Edwin at the Bartlett home.
Immediately suspicious. How did he get so sick so soon after his will changed?
Yeah. And fun fact, Dr. Leach is a bit of a quack doctor. So
great. Perfect.
Yes.
Just what the story needs.
Exactly.
There you go.
As his illness progressed, Dr. Dudley was called in on December 19th to provide a second opinion on Edwin's symptoms and prognosis, which is good.
I'm not a real doctor. Is he really sick?
Asking for a friend.
Yup.
It's also been stated in some places that Edwin may have been suffering from tapeworms, which isn't outside the realm of possibility, considering the couple bred St. Bernards, which they would regularly treat for worms.
Well, and London at this time.
Yeah.
It was disgusting. Like, you could get a tapeworm from just about anything back then.
Yeah.
Didn't have to try hard to get one.
No. At Edwin's insistence, Dr. Leach reluctantly agreed to prescribe him chloroform.
What?
Yeah. I told you, this story is a wild one.
For sleep?
No. At this time in history, you had to sign a chemist's book at the pharmacy to provide a record when purchasing medical poisons, which chloroform was considered to be. However, this law only applies when purchasing large doses. So we'll come back to that later.
Great.
So Edwin's illness was exacerbated by a dental disaster that he had suffered a decade earlier in 1875. Edwin, back then, had gone to the dentist, to get dentures. But instead of pulling all his teeth, the dentist sawed them down to the gums.
No, he did not.
This caused the stumps and roots to rot, which caused him excruciating pain from that point forward.
For a decade.
A decade.
He lived like that.
And given the time, and even today, the extent of his dental disease could have proved fatal, and it's likely his teeth and jaw were riddled with infection.
Yeah.
When Edwin's father came to visit his son, kind of learning of his poor health in the middle of December, Adelaide refused him entry.
Yeah, I bet he looked real miserable at that point.
Yeah.
If not already dead, potentially.
Well, on December 24th, so Christmas Eve.
Perfect timing.
Following a checkup by Dr. Leach, Edwin was told that his health had greatly improved, and the doctor was confident that he wouldn't need any more medical intervention. In fact, this was substantiated because Edwin traveled to the seaside, he went for a drive, and each day his health seemed to improve. So things were looking up. Like even the landlady and his landlord agreed that his health seemed to have
improved
greatly. Yes.
Crazy. Okay.
Dr. Leach accompanied Edwin and Adelaide to Edwin's dentist on December 30th, where the couple were quite affectionate with each other. In several articles, it noted very sappily that Adelaide had said that she wished that they could get a divorce so that they could enjoy the joys of getting married all over again. Something to that effect.
Gross.
Yeah.
There were no such thing as EO vow renewals.
Yeah. The following evening, the couple had a hearty dinner, and Edwin asked their landlady, Mrs. Doggett, if she could prepare a large breakfast for him tomorrow, saying, quote, he should get up an hour earlier at the thought of having it, end quote. So he had gotten his appetite back. He was excited
really
to
good.
eat. And then the couple would later retire to bed.
All right.
Early on January 1st, 1886, Adelaide shook the family maid awake, telling her to call the doctor immediately. Edwin's father was also called for. Following this, Adelaide ran upstairs to get her landlord, Mr. Frederick Thomas Doggett, saying, quote, come down, I think Mr. Bartlett is dead, end quote.
Not great. Not a good way to start the new year.
No. Adelaide had woken that morning to discover her husband face down on the bed and unresponsive.
Ew.
Yeah. She would later go on to say that in an attempt to revive him, she had turned him on his back and poured a pint of brandy down his throat.
What?
Yep. However, her efforts were for naught. He was already dead at the age of 41.
There's so many things wrong with that. A pint of hard alcohol to revive him.
Yep.
Just like a splash of cold water or smack to the face. You're just going to pour a bunch of brandy down a dead man's throat.
Apparently, it's something that he would have at like a snifter of brandy before bed. So that was like right there. So
he drank a pint of brandy at night?
No, a snifter, like you know, like a shot glass.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But the brandy was
I bet
there.
she took I bet she just took the whole thing.
Yeah, she probably just grabbed it and was, I don't know.
What the hell?
So Mr. Doggett would recall that Adelaide stated, quote, I had fallen off to sleep with my hand around his foot, because she hadn't actually been sleeping in bed with him. She had been sleeping in a chair next to the bed, kind of at his feet.
Interesting.
And I awoke with a pain in my arm and found him lying on his face. I put him in the position in which he now is and tried to pour brandy down his throat, end quote. Now, Edwin's father, who later came, after viewing his son's body, stated that he believed he had been poisoned using prussic acid.
Ooh.
And witnesses who entered the room, such as the landlady, Mrs. Doggett, described the room as smelling strongly of chloric ether.
Reason for the brandy to be poured everywhere.
So Edwin's father demanded that an autopsy be performed, which was granted following an inquest.
Yeah, I bet it was. I mean, just all that alone, having that in the same room, you'd want something to happen.
He immediately suspected that Adelaide had something to do with his son's death, especially after he'd accused her of cheating on her husband with his younger son, Frederick.
Whoa, this is a new player in the game.
Yep. I couldn't find out much about that, but that allegation, he had said that like early on in Edwin's marriage to her.
Mm-hmm.
And Edwin was like, not cool, Dad. You need to send her a letter and apologize and actually mean it. So then he did write her a letter like saying, I'm sorry, I slandered you. That wasn't cool. I'm sorry. I don't think you're an adulteress. But at one
But
point in
now that
time,
he's dead, he's like,
he did
"You
think she
did."
was.
Interesting.
Also, the timing was also very convenient, as Edwin had recently passed an insurance examination, which insured him for £400, or around £44,286 today.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's not a lot of money, though, considering like how much he was worth alive.
Yeah. Yeah. So the postmortem was conducted by Dr. Green of Charing Cross Hospital, Dr. Murray, Dr. Dudley, and Dr. Cheen on January 2nd, so the following day. At first, everything appeared normal. His organs looked great, his heart, his liver, all that stuff.
Classic poisoning.
At least until they opened his stomach and discovered it was full of a lethal dose of chloroform. Between 8 and 9 drops, or 4 ounces, which is 113.4 grams, depending on who you reference.
Okay.
Sir Thomas Stevenson confirmed this, and that it was the only poison present in his system, following an analysis that was conducted on January 11th. So like a medical analysis of the contents of his stomach.
I wonder if they did the alcohol to try to burn it, or to try to kill the chloroform. Hide the smell or something.
So the reason his manner of death was so peculiar is that his body didn't present any of the telltale signs of chloroform poisoning.
Mm-hmm.
Chloroform is caustic and will damage any soft tissue it comes into contact with. In this case, if he had ingested it, there would be chemical burns on his throat and larynx. But there weren't.
It was in the brandy.
Also, there was no chloroform in the Bartlett home when it was searched. None at all.
Chloroform tapeworms?
Soaked in chloroform. Num, 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 num.
It's the newest diet craze.
Adelaide would go on to admit that yes, she had had chloroform, but she had not killed her husband. Also, she had not purchased the chloroform. She had asked Minister Dyson to pick up some for her on December 27th so she could rub it on Edwin's gums to ease his tooth pain.
That's the reason.
Yeah. Minister Dyson had honored Adelaide's request and provided her with 4 ounces, or 0.1 kilograms, of chloroform. Now, remember how I said you only had to sign the chemist's book at the pharmacy for large doses?
Mm-hmm.
Minister Dyson skirted this by purchasing 4 small bottles of chloroform in various shops, claiming he needed it to remove grease stains.
How did they find all this out?
Well, police, particularly Mr. A. Braxton Hicks, which is a hilarious coincidence, by the way. What a name.
Yeah. Really?
Who led an inquest into the unusual death of Edwin. This was all the evidence they needed to charge Adelaide with, quote, willful murder, end quote, and the minister with, quote, accessory before the fact, end quote. Both were arrested, and Minister Dyson later admitted that he didn't realize how suspicious his method of purchasing chloroform was at the time.
Sure. Exactly. Oh, that looks weird. That's crazy.
That's crazy.
No, I love God. God doesn't kill. I don't kill.
I'm just a Wesleyan minister.
Jesus saves, and so do I,
Adelaide's trial at the Old Bailey started on April 12th of 1886, It would be the first murder trial regarding the alleged misuse of chloroform.
Really?
Yes.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. The trial into the death of Edwin took a strange turn from the get-go. See, the charges against Minister Dyson were dismissed right away, leaving him a free man who would go on to testify against Adelaide during her trial as a prosecution witness.
So he doesn't want the inheritance anymore, apparently? Because didn't he have to marry her to get...
I don't know. He just got let off and they were
Wait,
like,
no, because he was the executor of the estate, so he gets to go. Oh,
now.
That's dirty. Oh, man.
Now, due to the law of the time,
Uh-huh.
Adelaide was not allowed to take the stand to provide her testimony and speak for herself at her trial.
Because she's a woman?
This law wouldn't be changed until years later with the introduction of the Criminal Evidence Act of 1898.
So because she was a criminal.
Yes.
Got it.
So as a result, her future hinged on the testimony of Dr. Leach and her lawyer, Sir Edward Clarke, who worked to convince the jury that she was innocent of the crime.
I bet he worked hard.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And as was customary at the time, the Attorney General, Sir Charles Russell, led the prosecution for the Crown. Now, during the trial, Adelaide's lawyer told the jury that in the 11 years that she and Edwin had been married, the pair had been intimate only once.
That's insane.
So according to Adelaide, they had a platonic relationship and enjoyed zero intimacy.
Bummer.
But before his death, Edwin had begun requesting his quote-unquote marital rights to sex. In fact, following his death, no less than 6 condoms were found in his pocket, which horrified court attendees. Because at this time, condoms were considered crude, and he also had in his possession a, quote, marriage manual, end quote, which contained explicit references to sexuality and birth control, both of which were considered pornographic in the Victorian era.
Yeah, I bet. And the condoms would have alluded to him not having sex with his wife.
Mm-hmm. So the presiding judge, Sir Alfred Wills, noted the dangers of such a book in the hands of a woman and encouraged the jury to pity Adelaide for having to be subjected to such literature, let alone being forced to read it.
Yeah, sounds pretty ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. However, this also cast doubt upon her claims that her marriage was, quote-unquote, platonic. The judge noted, quote, when a young wife and a younger male friend get discussing, in or out of the presence of the husband, the possibilities of his decease within measurable time, and of the friend succeeding to the husband's place, according to all experience of human life, the life of the husband was one that an insurance office would not like to take, end quote.
Ouch.
So according to Adelaide and via her lawyer, because obviously she can't speak on her behalf,
right,
she had acquired the chloroform as a way to subdue Edwin when he attempted to force her into having relations. According to her, she had later confessed to her misdoings and turned over the bottle of chloroform to Edwin out of guilt and atonement. So she would use it on a rag and kind of wave it to give him a case of the vapors, so he would pass out. So then she wouldn't have to deal with him.
So she kept him sick steadily, just so she wouldn't have to deal with him.
That's what they're trying to allege, that she poisoned him over time. So.
Oh no, she did it every time. He wanted... Oh no.
So this testimony offered one reason as to why there was chloroform in the home, but not as to whether this was the one
That
used in his death.
Yeah.
So forensics wasn't as developed in 1886 as it is now.
What?
Surprise!
It was barely developed in the 90s, let's be real. In the 1990s.
But the trial hinged on how exactly liquid chloroform was able to get into Edwin's stomach without burning his throat and larynx.
Yeah, like that's crazy.
Like, how did it get there? So, Adelaide's lawyer, he wasn't the best barrister in England for nothing. Like, he was like the best that money could buy.
Oh, okay.
He was able to put forth a strong case that Edwin had taken his own life, stating that he had believed he was terminally ill.
Okay, now I can see why all those newspapers were watching this story. What is happening?
Yeah.
What is happening?
Because as we've pointed out, he was a hypochondriac.
Right.
He was regularly sick. He had tapeworms. He's got rotten teeth.
Not sick. There's just a lot of weird things.
A lot of weird things. So a week after the trial began, after 2 hours of deliberation, the jury rendered a verdict of not guilty.
Yeah, I mean, what else are you to do? Like, if it was not guilty, you'd like have a mistrial. Like,
so although the trial had been a long one, the prosecution could provide no solid proof, evidence, or explanation as to how she poisoned her husband.
Right.
And that reasonable doubt led to her verdict in the court of law. So following the reading of the verdict, cheers and applause rang out inside the courtroom and outside because crowds of people had come to watch what had become known throughout the country as the Pimlico poison mystery.
Dang.
So public opinion seemed to flip overnight from viewing Adelaide as the young murderess to Edwin as this villainous pervert, essentially.
Whoa.
But that doesn't mean that everyone thought she was free of guilt.
Right.
At the close of the trial, Sir James Paget, who was a well-known surgeon, was quoted as saying, quote, "Now that she's been acquitted for murder and can't be tried again, she should tell us in the interest of science how she did it," end quote.
Damn.
The Birmingham Daily Times published the following about Adelaide's acquittal. Quote, "Since Mrs. Bartlett's committal, the correspondence which has been addressed to her at Newgate has been of an extensive and curious character. For the first week of her incarceration, anonymous letters of abuse largely predominated, but latterly these have fallen off and have given place to expressions of sympathy and condolence. It is stated that during the last 6 days, no fewer than 17 offers of marriage, conditionally, of course, on her acquittal, have been directed through the post to the unfortunate woman, and that among the claimants are an ex-MP, a foreign marquis, a clergyman of the established church, and 3 members of the medical profession," end quote.
Yeah. No, that sounds about right, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. People are weird, man.
No kidding.
It doesn't matter what era you're from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So following Adelaide's acquittal, 3 major theories emerged on how Edwin died.
I'm ready.
One was that he had completed suicide, as was theorized and postulated during the trial.
Okay.
So in this theory, Edwin had heard the dentist say that his gum tissue was necrotic as he removed his teeth, or sawed them off. And given that the tooth pain before the procedure was making him sleep deprived, delusional, and likely depressed, it wouldn't be outside the realm of possibility that he would panic when the term necrosis was mentioned.
Yeah. Well, especially since he was already such a hypochondriac, you know?
And considering Edwin was sick for nearly a month, likely in excruciating pain and in a depressive state, the suicide theory alleges that since he was under the impression he was already dying, he chose to go on his terms rather than suffer longer. This could explain why there weren't any chemical burns on his throat. If he drank it of his own accord, he may have swallowed it so fast that it didn't have time to do any caustic damage on its way down. Because if you're drinking normally, you would just, take slow, leisurely sips. Whereas if he took it sort of like a shot, maybe then it wouldn't have had enough time to do a lot of damage as it was going down his throat.
Still.
Dr. Leach, his quack doctor who treated him in the past, proposes his theory regarding the idea of suicide.
Okay.
As he noted in The Lancet, which was a medical journal, he believes that Edwin drank the chloroform not to end his life, but to get back at Adelaide. And here's what he proposed. So, Dr. Leach proposes that after Adelaide confessed to Edwin that she had chloroform, she had confided to Dr. Leach that she planned to use the vapors to subdue him so she could avoid having sex with him, as we've already mentioned in the trial. When she confessed to her husband that she intended to use the chloroform so she wouldn't have to have sex, Edwin simply rolled over and refused to say anything. He did keep the bottle. And Dr. Leach theorized that Edwin drank the chloroform not to end his life, but to induce vomiting, forcing Adelaide to take care of him.
Oh, so it was just he thinks it's just a feeble attempt at attention.
Yes. So he didn't think he did it to end his life, but to gain sympathy and perhaps sway her opinion on being intimate with him. I don't know. I don't know how that
I don't know how that would work.
That seems like a bit of a stretch, but
yeah. Who knows at this point, though?
Yeah.
He seemed like a kind of strange dude.
Mm-hmm. The second most popular theory is that the whole thing was a mistake. As I mentioned before, in December of 1885, Edwin frequently took medicine to combat his illness. This second theory alleges that at one point he woke up to take his medicine, grabbed the wrong bottle, and downed the chloroform before realizing too late what he had done. Given how inflamed and rotten his mouth was at the time, it's entirely possible that he couldn't have tasted the liquid or even noticed the burning sensation of ingesting it compared to the pain that he was already suffering.
Right. Or honestly, too, if he just grabbed blindly on his nightstand expecting the brandy, the brandy would have burned. He wouldn't have noticed a difference.
Yeah. However, this theory doesn't seem to hold as much weight, given what the chloroform would have done to him.
Yeah, it would have been more intense. It would have hurt a lot more.
Yeah. If he had drunk the chloroform, he would have been screaming in agony from the pain. And as we heard during the trial, no screaming had been heard in the home the night that he passed away.
Right, because other people would have noticed. It wouldn't have just been her.
Yeah, they would have woken up to his screams, and we wouldn't have had a trial. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The third and final theory is that it was, in fact, the perfect murder. And here's how it could have gone down. I feel like I'm kind of doing the whole O.J. Simpson, if I had done it, type of thing.
It kind of feels that way a little bit, yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
I'm ready.
So as we know, Adelaide and Minister Dyson have already developed a close relationship, thanks in part to Edwin's intervention in the matter. And she knew she would marry him if Edwin were to pass away. So why not kill two birds with one stone? Literally.
Yeah.
This theory alleges that Adelaide used the chloroform vapors to get Edwin to pass out, rendering him helpless. At this point, it's speculated that she inserted a length of rubber tube or something like it into Edwin's throat to pour the poison down it and into his stomach, preventing the caustic substance from eating away at his throat on the way down.
But wouldn't they have seen something? Or like seen a damaged thing? Like, I don't know.
Then, once he was confirmed dead, she used the same tube to pour brandy into his mouth to mask the smell of the chloroform.
Yeah, I caught that immediately of like the brandy, the alcohol smell overwhelming the chloroform smell, or like trying to cover that up.
Mm-hmm. To this day, there has been no concrete evidence linking Adelaide to the murder of Edwin, if he was murdered.
I feel like this should be an episode of Mythbusters. Like, how did it get in there?
Yeah. And it is also just as likely that he passed away from the medicine he had been taking to treat his illness.
Right.
One of the most common chemicals prescribed in the 1800s to cure many maladies was mercury, which we now know to be highly toxic.
Yep.
So,
kind of a problem.
Additionally, drinking chloroform wouldn't have caused instant death. But if you were given it over some time, mixed in with a drink or hidden in your food, it could have killed you. It's entirely possible that Adelaide had been mixing it into Edwin's nightly brandy snifter without him knowing.
That's kind of what I was assuming. But, like, I don't know. Does chloroform... I would assume that it doesn't blend.
I don't know.
Man.
And the illness that Edwin was suffering from matched all of the symptoms of chloroform toxicity: diarrhea, drowsiness, stomach pains, and weakness. So following her acquittal, Adelaide and Minister Dyson quickly vanished from public notice.
I would not be anywhere near that man.
No.
Are you kidding?
I would be peacing out. Like,
yeah.
Deuces.
Like,
good day to you, sir.
You jerk.
It's unclear if the pair went on to marry or if they went their separate ways. There have been claims that Minister Dyson, who was 27 at the time of the trial, so he was 3 years younger than Adelaide.
Oh, man.
That he emigrated to the United States in 1939 and changed his name to John Bernard Walker. There are also claims that he emigrated to Australia, and I couldn't find anything else about what happened to Adelaide after she was acquitted.
Of course not.
So, what do you think? Did Adelaide get away with murder, or was it something else?
I think it was probably both. I think from the sounds of it, it sounds like it was like a slow poisoning over time. And then something happened that was just kind of the last little bit. But to me, from the sounds of it, is she had started poisoning him, and then she backpedaled in time for him to be healthy enough for the insurance inspection. And then when she was going to get him sick again, she fucked up and killed him. That's my thought. Is like she was already, like, the plan was already in motion for a long time. And the only reason why he got better was because they were going to try to get more money. She needed him healthy for the insurance appraisal so that she could get the most money. And then when she was like, okay, well, he got approved, everything's fine, I'll just start making him sick again one little bit, and she killed him.
Yeah, I feel the same. Like, it was a case of like Munchausen's by proxy, kind of, because the doctors that came to check on him were always commented on what a good nurse and wife she was to take such good care of him and all this stuff. And she was and she had this guy, this younger gentleman, waiting in the wings for her husband to pass away with her husband's blessing. So,
and with her husband's money.
Yep. Yeah. I just feel like it was a case of, she perhaps got a little too heavy-handed with the chloroform. And
Either that or after he got better, decided he wanted to live again. Like maybe he had interpreted his miraculous recovery to some sort of miraculous second chance.
Mm-hmm.
And so she knew she had to kill him because suddenly he was wanting sex again and he was wanting to do more things. And her plan was quickly unraveling. So she could have just like killed him out of panic then too, of like, he just needs to be dead. Like,
Yep.
It just needs to be done.
Yep.
And then what better way to do it than New Year's Eve for poisoning? I mean, it was, all in all, whether she predicted it or not, it was a good old story.
Mm-hmm. Well, this week's podcast plug is Castles and Cryptids, a podcast hosted by two Canadian chicks, Alana and Kelsey. Follow them down the rabbit hole as they explore lore and legends, murder and true crime, the unsolved and the unexplained, where the castles are haunted and the cryptids are cryptic AF. They are part of the Darkcast Network, and we will have a link to their show in the show notes.
Nice.
And this week's listener question comes from Carrie Ann.
Hello.
You wake up to find yourself being tried for witchcraft since people found you with your phone and with insulin.
Oh, no, she added insulin now.
She did.
No.
How would you try to get yourself out of trouble?
I would inject them all with insulin and kill them all and then start new with the natives. Have a good 28 days with the natives before my insulin would run out.
Yep.
And they would welcome me in because I'd kill all the nasty ones with just
all the
tiny
nasty
little
white men.
Just a tiny little dose of my insulin, just a little prick, and bye. How about you?
I think I would just try to run away because then I would have an asthma attack, and then I would just like fall over and die before they could do anything to me. Or I'd just be like, "Go long," and just like chuck my phone at them. Look over there, and then run away.
But try to mesmerize them with something on your phone.
I mean, what would you do? There's no internet. Like, what could you do with your phone?
You could still potentially use the AI, right?
No. I could use my calculator app and be like, look, I can do math. Look at how quickly I can do math. I don't think you can use the AI function without Wi-Fi.
No, I've used it with data.
Yeah, like if you had no data and you had no Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe
it'd just be a really expensive brick.
Maybe you could show pictures that you have saved on your phone.
Videos. Record things.
You could record things and play it back, and they'd be like,
yeah, do it in like slow motion or something. Freak them out. This is what the sky really looks like. Put a filter on it.
They're like, oh,
I can do this.
Wow. Yeah, that was a fun one.
I can't believe she added insulin to it. That's hilarious.
She did. She was like, I'm gonna.
That's good. She got me. She got me this time.
She specifically said, and Maddie's insulin.
That's amazing.
All right. What's something good you'd like to share?
I do have something good, but I will keep this something good to myself for a little bit yet. Other something good. Ooh, this week. So tomorrow I'm going to head up to, as part of our job, we have the opportunity to be a part of a training program with one of the sovereign nations that's in Minnesota. So I get to spend 2 days at a training with the Ojibwe tribe.
In
Carlton, up in Carlton. So, yeah. So I get to do some. I don't. They had the itinerary up. I didn't want to look at it because I kind of want to like surprise. Because like our boss, our whole team gets to go. Like we actually made our work. We shifted our work around so that we could have this kind of like quote unquote week off almost.
Sure.
Like We actually published things earlier, faster, a couple of weeks ago so that we could be ready for this. But like my whole small team is going. We're going to carpool together, and it's a training that several sovereign nations provides to state employees that we're all welcome to. Like the state will pay for our trip there, which is really nice. But different tribes offer the course throughout different times of the year, and this one worked out with our group that we were all able to go. So yeah, I get to do that this week, and I'm excited to go. I haven't been super north, really, despite living here forever. So there was talk of going up to Duluth for a little bit too. And I've never been to Duluth, so it'll be nice to spend a little bit of time.
Yeah.
How about you?
Cool. I'm excited to hear about that when you get back.
I know. I'm really excited. I think it's going to be really cool.
Awesome. For me, it has gone. What's been happening?
You've been really busy.
I have been really busy. My something good is this past weekend was crazy busy for both my girls. So it was prom for my oldest, which I think she had fun. There were some mishaps along the way.
Of course. There always is.
There always is. So, but she still had fun. And my youngest, she and most of the girls in her troop, one of them couldn't come because she had a fever. They sewed their own vests for next year for when they bridge. So my co-leader, Lisa, her mom is part of a sewing circle. So the women came and brought their sewing machines, and
that's so sweet,
and showed the girls how to sew their own vests. And we did have to do a little bit of intervention on some parts because
I bet some of them are kind of complicated.
The stuff on the outside, the little like kind of braiding thing that goes, like, that was kind of an issue. But for the most part, the girls did them all themselves, and they look really great. So I was very proud of them.
That's so cool.
So I'm very proud of my youngest and the girls in her troop for sticking with it and doing it. And it was a lot of work, but they did it. And now they have their vests already for bridging in a couple weeks, which sounds crazy, but
it does sound crazy that it's already time for that.
June will be here before we know it. But yeah.
Man.
All right. Shall we?
Let's do it.
We wouldn't be here without support from listeners like you. If you're interested in supporting us financially, you can leave a one-time or monthly donation over on Buy Me a Coffee or our Venmo page. Links are in the show notes. And we make a point of reaching out to send you a thank you note and stickers to show our appreciation.
Want to show your support in a more concrete way? Pick up some Yield Crime merch over at our TeePublic shop. We shout out whenever there is a sale each month, and we work to make sure we're creating new designs and changing it up whenever possible. And hey, thanks for listening.
We love to hear from you, and there's a couple of ways you can reach out to us. You can email us at yeoldecrimepodcast@gmail.com, where you can send us story ideas, share any spooky stories you may have, fun gifts, or even just to say hello.
You can also reach out to us via snail mail. Remember mail? Our mailing address is Yield Crime Podcast, P.O. Box 341, Wyoming, Minnesota 55092. Fun fact, we like to send out thank you cards with fun stickers you can't get at our shop, so it's worth the cost of a stamp.
If you love the show, the best way to support us is to leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, Good Pods, CastBox, Podcast Addict, and or Audible. Links to all of these are in our show notes, or if you're already listening on one of these platforms, you know what to do.
Oh, and while you're at it, shoot us a question you'd like to hear us answer on the pod. We'll give you a special shout out and address your burning questions all at the same time. The weirder, the better. Submit them via link in our show notes or shoot them to us in our DMs.
Want to be social with us? You can see pics from this week's episode, bonus content, and funny memes on X at Ye Olde Crime Pod, or on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, and YouTube at Ye Olde Crime Podcast.
Speaking of YouTube, we have a special playlist just for our Can You Crack the Cramp Word segments with our guest podcasters to see who can correctly guess the meaning of some obscure Victorian slang terms. If that's your thing, check it out.
And on that note, as always, I'm Lindsay.
And I'm Madison.
And we'll see you next time with another tale
as old as crime.